Hello dear friends of freedom. Today's video is dedicated to one of the most brutal and horrible persons of the Putin regime, Ramzan Kadyrov. This is the first part of an ongoing series of translated videos that will cover this monster who some refer to as Putin's son. We start with a video of an extremely brave and emotional public address to Kadyrov by Russia's last true opposition politician Ilya Yashin, who could have easily been assassinated for publishing it. Ilya's speech, in which he called for people to sign a petition that demanded the resignation of Kadyrov, was published in early February, shortly before the beginning of the full-scale war, and gained roughly 7 million views. Ilya Yashin has been sitting in pre-trial detention for over 4 months now, officially because he was spreading deliberately false information about the Russian army, and unofficially because he was expressing his honest opinion about the brutal, violent, shameful, horrible Russian invasion of Ukraine. Ilya Yashin's best friend was the former opposition leader Boris Nemtsov, who has been shot in the back by Kadyrov's hitman in 2015, just a couple of meters away from the Kremlin. Despite everything that happened after Ilya's video got published, I still feel it's important to translate and publish it, as it sums up quite a lot of what was known about Kadyrov before this war in less than 12 minutes, and because Ramzan plays an important role in this ongoing war. Let's take a look.
Why don't you say what you want from us, Don? Do you want us to commit actual crimes, Don?
It is absolutely obvious that there is a contract between Putin and Kadyrov, a criminal contract, and it only exists because there is a lot of money involved. And at the same time, his hitman can just come to Moscow, kill someone, and leave. This is just absolute lawlessness and chaos. Chechnya must live according to Russian law. Chechnya must obey the Russian constitution. Hey Ramzan, my name is Ilya Yashin. I'm a friend of Boris Nemtsov, who your subordinates killed 7 years ago, in February 2015. I'm sure you remember the names of the perpetrators of this murder all too well. Beslan Shabanov, Shadid и Anzor Gubashinovы, Temirlan Eskirkanov, and of course Zaur Dadayev, the officer of the North Battalion of the so-called Kadyrov Guard. You've referred to these people publicly as true patriots and heroes. But in fact, they are just ordinary bandits and cowards, because only bandits shoot at unarmed people in the streets of a peaceful city, and only cowards shoot in the back. Ramzan, for almost a month, the whole country has been watching your conflict with the federal judge Saidi Yungulbayev. His son dared to criticize you and thus inflicted a terrible insult on you. You got angry and hungry for revenge. You have done a lot of things this month. Your soldiers forcibly took Yungubayev's wife to Grozny and are now holding her hostage behind bars. You charged an elderly woman with the ridiculous accusation of assaulting one of your enforcers. You know, in Moscow, a couple of years ago, they put guys behind bars who threw paper cups at the police. The riot policemen complained about the physical and moral suffering they endured and made themselves a laughingstock. And now you've imprisoned an old woman for allegedly scratching the face of one of your thugs. Do you have any idea how honorless that looks? Aren't you ashamed to fight with women? But no, you are not ashamed at all. On the contrary, you are so thirsty for revenge that you simply lose control of yourself. Calling a federal judge's family terrorists without trial or investigation, you promise to either bury them in graves or let them rot in prison. You accused the journalists of the opposition newspaper Novaya Gazeta, Elena Milashina, of terrorism and said that these terrorists must be destroyed. You threatened human rights activist Igor Kalyapin, who, let me remind you, is a member of the Human Rights Council under the President of Russia. Well, what about your environment, Ramzan? Do you even hear what your people say? Your right hand, Adam Delimkhanov, publicly promises to cut the heads of the Yangulbayevs. Look, I have no illusions about this figure. I perfectly understand how much blood is on his hands. I have no doubt that it really doesn't cost him anything to behead a man. But after all, this is a deputy of the State Duma, a member of the federal parliament. Following him, your officials, sitting under the portrait of Putin, repeat the same things, one after another. Death threats, promises to cut heads, blood feud. In the center of Grozny, hired crowds of people are burning portraits of your opponents, and the whole of Russia looks at it in absolute shock. Listen, Ramzan, All this has gone too far, and someone must finally, directly and openly tell you that you cannot behave like that. In Russia, this is not acceptable. I will tell you a little about our country. There is a constitution and laws before which everyone is equal. Do you understand what that means? Everyone is equal. The seller in a store, or the manager in an office, or the governor, or the minister, or even the president. Neither Sharia norms nor blood feud can stand above the laws of our country. You have said many times that you are ready to break any law if your honor requires it. Those who violate the peace between people, gossip or insult, if we do not stop them by either killing, imprisoning or intimidating them, nothing will work. This is how Ramzan Kadyrov urged to punish those who offended his honor on the internet. Even if the whole world will burn in blue flames, even if the laws of all countries have to be violated, can we just leave a person who offended our honor? I swear by the Holy Quran, we will not let them be unpunished. I want to remind you that you are a civil servant. Remember, such statements are unacceptable. Do you want to live by the law? Well then, be kind, take a piece of paper and write a resignation letter. And also, Ramzan, in our country it is unacceptable to kill your opponents and threaten them with death. Even a court in Russia has no right to sentence a person to death, whether you like it or not, because our state has assumed such obligations. I don't understand. Do you actually see yourself as more righteous than our state? Aren't you exaggerating your role here? And there's more, Ramzan. You don't have the right to label journalists and human rights activists as terrorists just because you don't like them or because they criticize you. Let me remind you again. You are a government official, and this means that you are obliged to accept criticism in your address, and you have to adequately respond to it. Do you know what might surprise you? A self-respecting official should be grateful for criticism, well, because it allows you to avoid or correct mistakes. But this is probably all just too funny for you, isn't it? I can just imagine how you listen to all of this and laugh. I say naive things, right? Like, what do you mean you can't behave like that? What are all these laws worth if no one can force you to comply with them? After all, you have power on your side, a whole army of thugs, many of whom had recently fought in a war against Russia. You have billions in your bank accounts. The police and the FSB are afraid of you. You do what you want, and no one can tell you anything. Even Putin has never publicly put you in your place in 20 years. That's how you see it, right? Well, we must admit, this is largely true. All these naive things should have been told to you, not by me, but by Vladimir Putin, back in 2007, when he signed a decree appointing you as the head of Chechnya. You call Putin your second father. In a political sense, this is true. He raised you, instructed you, and gave you pocket money from the federal budget. But unfortunately, he raised you very badly. Putin never explained to you the rules of life in modern Russia. He did not tell you about the norms of behavior and did not explain to you what is good and what is bad, probably because he himself does not understand these norms and rules very well. Yes, President Putin is directly responsible for who you have become, but you yourself are already an adult man and must be personally responsible for your words and deeds. Ramzan, you enjoy your impunity and license to do anything you want. Without the slightest remorse, you deprive people of their lives. Listen, only God gives life to a person, and only He has the right to take it away. Look at how much blood is on your hands. Look how many corpses are around you. How do you sleep at night? Don't you get haunted by all of those who you have tortured and who you have sent to the other side? You are used to the fact that you can intimidate and silence anyone. If someone dares to criticize you, you send your fighters, they force people to apologize. And you proudly post these apologies on your social networks and on Chechen TV. Everyone knows you adore this. This is your personal style. The Grozny TV channel has published a video message from the Krasnoyarsk deputy where he does not renounce his apology and explains that journalists have questioned his apology. Ramzan Akhmatovich, I apologize. I was wrong. I acted in haste. Ramzan Kadyrov reposted this on his Instagram page. Under this appeal, the head of Chechnya left only one comment: I accept. I think I understand why you do it and why you enjoy it. You really want to be respected, don't you? You must finally understand, fear does not equal respect. The apologies you receive by force are worth nothing. They are empty words. Don't you understand that a real apology is one that a person makes sincerely and not with a gun to his head? Hasn't there been a single person in your entire life who would explain such a simple truth to you? It is important that you understand this, Ramzan. Despite your brutal image, there are enough people in Russia who do not feel fear of you, even in the face of death. Take, for example, Anna Politkovskaya, a journalist from Novaya Gazeta. Remember her? She publicly called you a coward and died with her head held high at the hands of a hired hitman. Politkovskaya is no longer with us, but after her death, she became a symbol of courage. And what will you become a symbol of, Ramzan? You always hide behind the Chechen people. When a killer kills your next opponent, you say that you have nothing to do with it, that this has been done by the nation who felt offended for you. But the truth is that Chechens and Kadyrovцы are completely different concepts. Chechens are proud and free people who deserve respect. And the Kadyrovids are an armed group that seized power in the Chechen Republic. For 20 years, you have made sure that you and your group are allowed to get away with anything. The police, the FSB, the prosecutor's office, the investigative committee, all are silent. Putin justifies you every time, defends you, and continues to send you money. And you proudly say that you used to fight with Russia, and now this very Russia pays you 300 billion rubles a year.
For us, Russia, Don, for a year, directly for our republic, for the maintenance of the people of the Chechen Republic. Money worth 300 billion, Don. Spends it, Don.
You yourself admit that without federal subsidies, your republic will not last even 2 months. At the same time, you are already trying on the chair of the president of Russia, while announcing what you would do with Ukraine if you were in Putin's place. You just lost touch with reality.
And if I were instead, Don, of the president, I would have taken Ukraine a long time ago. Send troops there, Don. I would put things in order, Don.
Look, Ramzan, I was born and raised in Moscow. I live here and I don't intend to go anywhere. And I openly say that I am not afraid of you and that I despise you. Because your bandits killed my friend Boris Nemtsov. Because you are trying to bring my country back to the Middle Ages. Because you are bathing in money and luxury at the expense of the rest of Russia. I understand that now the force is on your side, but the truth is on my side. And the truth will always win, and no matter how ridiculous it may seem to you, I will fight you legally, because I am a civilized person. Today, I'm calling for signatures on the petition demanding your resignation. A person like you cannot be a government official. You must leave. And now, friends, I want to appeal to everyone who has watched this video and agrees with what I am saying. The description of this video contains a link to a petition demanding Kadyrov's resignation. Sign it yourself and distribute it on your social networks. Don't forget to like this video so YouTube can recommend it to other users more often. Share the video on social networks and subscribe to this channel. Don't be afraid and see you next time.